Welcome back to another episode of Light Beer, Dark Money. I'm Sean Noble.
I'm Chris Clements.
And it is Liberation Day yesterday.
More like Tariff-ageddon or something like that.
Terrifying.
Terrifying
As
tariffs.
Jeff said.
Terrifying terrorists.
It is Thursday, April 3rd, the day after Trump announced all the new tariff, reciprocal, et ceteras.
Yeah.
With the chart.
Yeah, that's the chart, which was really incredible if you knew nothing about simple economics. But once you dive into it a little bit, which a lot of much smarter people have, a lot of those tariffs that he was touting up there weren't really the tariffs that were being charged. They were sort of a blend of tariffs and trade barriers and taxes and trade deficits.
And trade deficits, yeah.
And so I heard the point this morning that, of course, we have a trade deficit with Vietnam. Vietnam's a really poor country.
Yeah.
Or, of course, we have a trade deficit with Madagascar.
Yeah.
Like the per capita GDP is like $750.
Right.
And so, and the markets have reacted accordingly, but it seems like the markets are coming back as well. So I think a lot of it puts pressures on countries to grant further access to our products. Mm-hmm. I'd like to think that much of it has to do with access to American products in foreign markets, especially developed countries, versus what we've seen in the past. And we've mentioned that in previous podcasts.
Right.
Up until recently, the number one car, people like to talk about the car industry and how is this going to affect the car industry. The number one car in America is a truck called the Ford F-150. It's been the number one car for like 30 years. Up until 2022, which I had to look this up because I was incorrect.
Oh, really?
Well, no, I was incorrect before. Now
okay.
That you could not buy a Ford F-150 in Germany.
Right.
Germany and Japan are the two number one car importers into America. You could not buy a Ford F-150 up in 2022. Now you can buy it through an importer. But you still have to special order it, apparently. Those, hopefully, are the type of things we're going to try to remedy through tariff policy, although
Right.
I don't think I think it's sort of ready, fire, aim at this point.
Well, maybe.
What's your take?
My take is that I
don't like tariffs overall.
I'm not a huge fan, but that's I was trying to be honest with myself and say, okay, what is it that I don't like about tariffs? It seems, and my conclusion was basic economics 101. It disrupts the whole concept of free trade. Now, historically, we've had tariffs. We had tariffs. Tariffs were the main funder of the federal government until the early 1900s.
Yeah, but that was a long time ago.
The question I'm grappling with at this point is, do I dislike tariffs more than the income tax, or do I dislike the income tax more than tariffs? And I have concluded that I dislike the income tax more than tariffs.
But for tariffs to be raised to compensate for the income tax, it would have to be a lot.
Well,
a lot more than even the 10% blanket tariffs that he's implemented across the board.
Maybe. I don't know.
A tariff is a tax for sure.
Right. But I just fundamentally, and have for my entire life, had a problem with the idea that you get taxed on your labor. That is, the harder you work, the more you get taxed.
Yeah.
That's just
the more successful you are,
the more
you get taxed.
And especially if it's if a graduated income tax, that's even worse.
Yes.
Back in the day when the top bracket was 90%. That's insane.
90%, but with you could write off basically everything back then.
Well, it depends on what you were. If you were an actor.
No. But
as
if
Ronald Reagan pointed out.
Yeah, that's true.
But if you were a business owner, I get that. But
the business expenses for people back then was it was unbelievable what you could write off.
Yeah.
Pretty much anything.
Pretty much anything. but that goes to the complicate. I mean, and we were in D.C. over the weekend, as we talked about in the last episode. We did this High Rock Stories. We took the kids to the Natural History Museum. On the way to the Natural History Museum, you walk by the IRS.
Yes.
That massive building, and I just thought to myself, that's emblematic of the problem. With the IRS shouldn't need, I mean, that's just one building.
It's right there on Constitution.
Right. That's just one building. They've got multiple buildings, obviously, all over the country. But it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
I mean, we should be.
So you're of the opinion that if Trump's overall goal is to use tariff policy to replace tax policy in the United States, that could be a good thing.
I think it could be. Yeah. Now,
well, I mean, it definitely puts pressure on Speaker Johnson to get the damn tax bill done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which all we've seen for the last 3 months is a lot of hemming and hawing.
Yeah. Well,
and now that the special elections are done, and we'll get to that in a second, maybe there'll be some momentum to get the things moving forward.
Maybe. Although they canceled votes on Tuesday for the entire week because Representative Luna from Florida, I think,
yeah,
who is a recently gave birth, is trying to push proxy voting for new moms. And, there's
not just new moms. I mean, dads too. I mean, that was part of the proposal.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're a congressman and you're able to,
and your wife has a baby.
Yeah, your wife has a baby, and you're able to take time off, then you get like 20 weeks or something like that. That's not going to fly anymore.
Right.
I don't think anybody's going to jump on board for that.
Well, but they did
separate issue.
They did the discharge petition. They had enough Republicans sign the Democrat discharge petition that they had to cancel votes because the discharge petition gives control to the opposition.
Yeah.
And Johnson's not going to do that. So we're at a stalemate in the House, and I don't know how long it's going to last, but that doesn't help.
No.
For sure. I presume that
Well, we were at a stalemate in the Senate for 25 hours too this week.
Yes, and you know what's interesting about that? So I'm glad you brought that up.
Spartacus.
Because
Cory Booker.
I didn't even know that it happened until after he was done. And
so I saw the news report and I thought, wait, did this happen last? To your point, great point. Did this happen last week? Did I miss it? But it was happening right then.
When you saw it was happening.
And I'm like, what is he filibust? What's he doing?
Right.
And he really wasn't doing anything.
Well, okay. So that is yes.
Is that correct?
I think he was
the right read?
He was filibustering the Trump administration in general, which, okay, it's not a specific bill. It's not a specific issue. That's fine. I will say that I'm actually thrilled that he did this, and I'll tell you why.
Okay, great.
Prior to Cory Booker, an African-American senator from New Jersey, taking the floor and filibustering for 25 hours and 5 minutes or something like that, just over 25 hours. The previous record was held by Strom Thurmond.
Yes.
A nasty, racist Southerner.
Yes.
Who filibustered for 24 hours.
Friend of Joe Biden's.
Yeah. Filibustered for 24 hours in the 60s when he was against the Civil Rights Act. He was filibustering the Civil Rights Act.
Yeah.
It is, I think, beautiful justice to see a black man in the Senate break that record.
That is a great take.
I love that.
That is
I
a
love
great
that
take.
Juxtaposition.
Yeah, that's a great take.
I don't care if Cory Booker...
I had not thought of it that way.
I don't care what he was filibustering. I'm just happy that he now has the record.
That is
and
a great
that racist Strom Thurmond is no longer the record holder.
You know what? That's a great take. Good work. Because I had not thought of it that way until you just said that. And that is absolutely correct. Even though he was just jabbering just to jabber.
But here's the thing.
And actually, I get the sense from listening to some other senators that people like Corey.
Yeah, he seems like a really nice guy. Yeah. But let me go back to what he was saying. I didn't listen because, like I said, I didn't know what was going on. But I did read some stuff about what he was saying on the floor, and what I read about was that there was, Frank Luntz was dial testing with independents and Democrats the things that Cory Booker was saying, and it was dialing off the charts. And, Frank's point was they need to take the transcript verbatim and give it to every Democrat because this will be how they get out of the wilderness. So whatever he was saying seems to have been working. The clip I saw, he had a Constitution in his hand. I'm always going to be happy about that. Okay. I don't care whether you're a Democrat or Republican. If you're holding the Constitution and reading from it, that can't be a bad thing.
No. Well, it shows also that where they need to pivot, right? They need to pivot to common sense constitutionalism.
Yeah.
And being against Doge because you're against Doge or Elon Musk is not enough.
Right.
What is your solution? And I don't even think he proposed any solution.
I don't know. Maybe he did.
Maybe he did. I don't know.
We don't know. That's the thing. We haven't read it. I missed it, like I said. So the imagery of him being the person who beat out Strom Thurmond is great. I'm going to go back and look at some of the things he said. But perfect segue, got to be for something. Let's go to the election results.
Yeah.
Let's do the one that nobody's really talked about because it's inconvenient for Democrats to talk about this. In Wisconsin, there was a constitutional amendment on the ballot.
No one is talking about this.
And it was to say, should you be required to show ID in order to vote?
Which statutorily is the law in Wisconsin.
Yeah. So now it's in the Constitution because it passed overwhelmingly.
Big time.
Big time. Huge.
Democrats, Republicans,
numbers.
Independents did vote for that.
And
what does that mean?
Well, it means that you have to show ID.
But why would you have to show ID? What are people concerned about happening where you would not have to show ID?
I think people are concerned that if you might be in the country illegally.
Illegally? Really?
And voting? That wouldn't be a good thing.
Is that against the law?
It is against the law.
Oh, my goodness.
And to show how on point message-wise Democrats in leadership are, the DNC, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, the GCCC, the DGA, that's the Democrat Governors Association, all the main Democrat committees and the leadership have filed a lawsuit against President Donald Trump for his executive order saying that you cannot vote if you're an illegal alien.
Wow.
So the Democrat base has voted to prevent, in Wisconsin, has voted to prevent illegal aliens from voting by requiring voter ID. And the response by the Democrat leadership is, oh, no, we can't let that happen.
Yeah.
So we're going to sue the Trump administration over this executive order. I don't understand. When you look back at the drubbing that they took in November, how do they think that doing this is helping their image?
Well, because they're fully committed to having people come to this country illegally, giving them Social Security numbers, obviously, which is what now we're understanding that has happened, and having them vote. So the great replacement theory is not so much a theory anymore.
Yeah.
When you've got 10 to 20 million people here, depending on whatever chart you look at, and some of those people might be voting in our elections illegally, and a simple fix to requiring voter ID. They have fought voter ID from the beginning.
Yeah, it is.
It makes and the rationale is it disenfranchises minorities. It disenfranchises blacks and Hispanics,
which is
and
a racist thing to say.
Which is so incredibly racist. These same people needed an ID to get on an airplane. These same people need an ID to drive a car.
Yeah.
Heck, you need an ID to catch a fish.
That's true.
Catch a fish.
Yes, you do.
And they're saying that you can't have an ID to vote. It's crazy.
Oh, these people. Okay, let's go to other election results.
Yes,
so the other result in Wisconsin was the Democrat Supreme Court justice candidate won by 10 points. It was a resounding victory over the Republican. That is not, and I will say that's not a huge surprise to me because Wisconsin is it's a tough state for Republicans historically. We've had some success there in the past with Scott Walker and Ron Johnson and others. But when you have a non-presidential election, so a midterm, it's a little bit more challenging. But even more challenging is a special, election on and off time, right? I mean,
less than 6 months after the last one, and it's hard to inspire turnout, especially amongst the base in power, right?
Right. Well, not only that, but
it's really hard.
Infrastructure. The Democrats have a permanent infrastructure of turnout in every state, but particularly in a state like Wisconsin because of its heavy union membership.
Sure.
And so they just know how to flip the switch and they can make it happen. And Republicans do not have a permanent infrastructure of turnout. And so when people say, "Oh, Republicans, what are they going to do?" Well, what Republicans need to do is figure out how do we build a permanent infrastructure of turnout? Because year after year after year, this has been a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a problem. And
but also, what do you think about the criticism that Elon Musk did more harm than good in that election?
Well, I think that's probably true.
I heard a take earlier today that sending a metrosexual techie into Wisconsin to rally the troops was not the best look.
Well, I mean,
within the electorate,
let's put it this way.
And I thought that was an interesting.
There's
take.
a reason. I mean, the Democrats are so smart about this, so much smarter than we are. There's a reason that George Soros has never gone to a rally.
Yes,
he has funded a lot of the Democrat stuff, and he funded a lot that was going on in Wisconsin. But he didn't show up at a rally. His son didn't show up at a rally. Reid Hoffman didn't show up at a rally.
No, because telegenically and photogenically and verbally, they should not be out there talking.
Well, I mean,
and
just
being seen.
There
are professionals to do that.
Yeah, and
also, I think candidates matter.
Yes,
candidates do matter in this race. I think that played a factor as well.
Yeah. So there was a bright spot and a dark spot in Wisconsin. The bright spot was the voter ID passage. Dark spot for Republicans was Supreme Court race. Okay. Then you go to Florida, the two special elections for Congress. Republicans won both handily, but they won with less than what happened in November. Well, no shit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an off year.
Yeah.
And
Axios is trying to play it into Republicans need to be careful. It's like the National Party didn't even play in either election.
Right.
And they didn't because their polling probably showed 15, 20% lead. And why would we want to do that?
You don't buy a landslide.
Yeah.
Don't buy a landslide.
You don't have
to. A win
to.
is a win.
You're going to have lower turnout. You know that going in.
Yeah.
People are tired. I mean, the first year after a major presidential election, the electorate is tired.
Mm-hmm.
Many people are not paying attention right now.
Yeah.
They're just not.
And
they don't care.
Well, they don't.
They care about they might be paying attention to the tariff issue. They might be paying attention to the immigration issue. But the local stuff, they're like, eh.
Yeah. And Democrats, because they lost, the base Democrats have a lot more motivation to fight back. I get it. They're more motivated.
What was the race where they spent like $9-10 million or more?
Yeah, it was 10 in the Randy
million?
Fine. It was a 10
yeah.
to 1. They spent $10 million. Yeah, that's just on the candidate side.
What?
The Democrat candidate had $10 million. The Republican candidate had $900,000.
Yeah.
And then on the outside spending, it was about even. Maybe the Democrats spent a little bit more than Republicans. And the Republican still won by
15%.
Double digits. Yeah.
So, I mean, we made them spend all of that money.
Yeah.
And only to lose by 15%.
Right. Yeah, they're trying to
in a district that Trump won by 20 to 30%.
Right.
So I'll take those odds anytime. I don't understand.
Well, and it doesn't.
And the polling going in was wrong.
Well, and people are saying, well, if you're in a swing district, this is going to send a shockwave. And no, it's not, because if it was a swing district in a special election, yeah, I would definitely say that that's an issue. But we don't have any of those right now.
No,
we don't, and we're not going to, as long as that's part of why Elise Stefanik has been pulled back as UN nominee.
Also, because the governor wasn't going to call that election. She was going to just leave it open. And so that had more to do with New York than it had to do with like Florida.
Yeah.
That's what they were talking about slow walking that election for months.
Right.
So, I mean, good for Elise for agreeing to go back.
Yeah.
Or else that seat would have been open for a while and it could have been a Democrat.
Right. Well, that
we can't afford.
So we have, as we go into we're so far away from the election of next year.
We do have the elections in Virginia, though.
Yes, that comes in November of this year, and that will be that'll be a better bellwether than what these special elections were.
Yes,
for sure.
With Winsome Sears.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, look. Virginia is one of those states that habitually follows the presidential election. If the president, because it's 4-year terms, but it's only one term. So, and they're always the year after the presidential election.
Correct. It's a weird calendar for the Commonwealth.
So in 2009, after Obama got elected president, you had McDonald.
McDonald, yes.
McDonald won in Virginia, and that sent. And Christie won in New Jersey. That sent shockwaves, and that portended the takeover of Republicans in the House. The next year in 2010, and then in 2013, Obama won in 2012, and Cuccinelli loses. In Virginia, and. That was an anomaly because there's a lot of reasons that happened. But and then Youngkin wins on the heels of Biden winning. Yeah, and so will Winsome Sears,
break the trend.
Break the trend. I don't know. It's a tough call.
Yeah, it really depends what's happening in D.C., and that's a hard
D.C. and what's happening in Virginia.
Northern Virginia. I mean, that's really where it comes down to.
If Youngkin is still fairly popular and she can run as the continuation of Youngkin, maybe that helps.
Yeah, I would imagine that's what she has to do. She has to distinguish herself, but absolutely run on his coattails.
Yeah. So, I mean, folks, there'll be lots to talk about
for quite some time. For quite some time. I mean, the popcorn just doesn't run out.
We're going to keep Iowa in business by by continuing to.
Yeah, exactly.
Buy the popcorn.
Yeah, just keep popping it.
Yeah, exactly.
Just keep popping it.
So, going back to the tariffs thing.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what are the markets doing. They're down, right? Dow's down 3%, Nasdaq's down 5%, S&P 500 down 4%. Those are tough.
Yeah, we call those buying opportunities.
Yeah, that's right. Buy the dip.
Those are buying opportunities once everything shakes out. But I mean, it does, like I said, it does put a lot of pressure on Johnson to get something done, get something moving.
Yeah.
And this idea that Republicans are floating out there that they're going to tax small businesses, tax the rich to pay for no taxes on tips, you will be in a permanent minority.
Well,
forever.
I mean, I guess it depends on where the threshold is. It's not a good thing. I don't think that makes a lot of sense.
I think you just need a clean tax bill. I think you should go after the additional taxes at some other time.
Well,
I think you just need a clean extension or permanency of the 2017 bill.
I agree with that. I think that's the stopgap. And then I think if we're going to go down this route of tariffs, then we need to start being serious about either eliminating the income tax or flattening it significantly.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite bumper stickers of all time, Annoy the IRS, support the flat tax.
Yeah. I mean, why can't we just fill out our tax on a postcard?
Yeah. You should be able to with minimal deductions or a standard deduction, which they've already had.
Yeah.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. I'm very libertarian on tax policy when it comes down to it. Because,
a lot of people oppose a sales tax, national sales tax.
Yeah, VAT tax or anything like that.
The value-added tax. I get, that as an issue, but there's also that is in my mind a fairer tax because that's a tax on consumption that you get to decide.
That's broad-based.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's broad-based.
It's up to
no matter
you
what you're buying.
Spend what your money on. But the idea that the government gets into your business about what you earn and take a portion of that rubs me wrong.
How about no tax on capital?
I would love no tax on capital. That makes a whole lot of sense. I mean,
zero capital gains.
If there's no capital gains tax, I mean,
that would talk about an explosion of investment and would make all the heartache and headache and fever about tariff policy go away.
Yeah,
because in an instant.
I mean, what company would not just immediately bring everything back to the United States if there's no capital gains tax?
No capital gains tax.
That would be phenomenal.
No, it would absolutely infuse this country with so much capital and inspire just billions and billions and trillions of dollars of economic activity.
Yeah. It's interesting to me that,
because it would take the risk out of investing.
Right. The tariffs have historically been more supported by the Democrats.
That is a great point.
Which is why this is such a weird time because, my instinct is no tariffs because I'm a free market guy. And because it's what Democrats have supported. So it's kind of like a knee-jerk reaction. And I guess what we need to do is have some smart person like Stephen Moore or somebody else come on and who knows economics and talk us through this.
Is not for the tariffs.
Yeah.
He is not happy about
Even though he's been an advisor of the president, he's advised against us. Yeah. Along with Art Laffer. Yeah. The team, the duo, the dynamic economic duo. Yeah.
They've advised against it. So it'll be interesting to hear their take today. I'm sure they're going to be on all the shows.
Probably.
Yapping away.
Yeah.
But, I mean, economically, one thing that Trump cannot afford is throwing this economy into a recession. He'll lose the midterms. He'll set up his successor.
The question
for
is,
failure.
he's already, and he did this at the national address. His congressional address, not State of the Union because it's the first presidential address is not the State of the Union, but he said it's going to be a little bit of pain at first.
Yeah.
So the question is, does this shake out by the end of the year, by the middle of next year? Does it shake out before the midterms, or are we in for a couple of years of pain? And if that's the case, then you're right. It could be problematic for the Republicans in the House.
Well, again, I'm a broken record. Get the tax extensions done, or else it's going to be triple the pain.
Yeah, the taxes. Make
the 2017 Trump tax bill permanent forever and perpetuity. Democrats will never go back and try to revise it. They won't. They'll lose. So make it permanent, and then go back and talk about no tax on tips and things like that.
Yeah. So remember a few weeks ago we
still have time to do all that.
Yeah. We speculated as to who was going to, how long was the Trump-Elon match going to last?
Yes.
And
there's a lot of talk about that right now.
And as it stands right now, there's been some chatter that Elon is kind of going to step back.
Well, I mean, his appointment lasts 130 days, correct?
So he's
the end of May is my
end of
understanding.
May.
And he seems in his great interview with Brett Baer last week, which I would encourage again everyone to go back. They needed to do that early on. I don't know why they didn't.
Should have done it earlier. Yep.
You know, the impression of 20-year-old backpack wielding, you know, skateboard skating dudes, you know, roaming through USAID was not the right image in terms of trying to accomplish what we need to accomplish, which is fleecing out waste, fraud, and abuse. So that interview with Brett Baer was very interesting. Brett asked him about that, and he was fairly confident that much of the path that he's begun the agencies on in terms of cost cutting, that they will be on that path of reducing the deficit by $1 trillion by that, you know, by the time that 130 days is up. And then he'll just be a loose advisor. He'll still be around, but not be running the Doge effort.
So,
and I've always thought that our friend Russ Vought would be the Doge guy overall.
well, and
that's really where it all has to go through.
Yeah, all the power is in the OMB.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that having Russ there is the backstop, regardless of what Elon does.
I mean, the left hates him enough, but he's not going to be going out and campaigning or anything.
Right. That he is not as good a big boogeyman as Elon is.
No, he's a kind of a Booker-ly, balding, you know, guy who loves numbers and knows how to push buttons and pull levers.
Yeah, I mean, smart guy and gonna get the job done. Doesn't have to have a lot of flash around it.
No, and once I think once Elon goes through all the different agencies and puts processes and procedures in place to make sure things are done properly, then it's Russ. Yeah. It's sort of you pass the baton. And if things need to get fixed again in certain areas, I mean, I'm sure Elon is going to be happy to come back and flip a couple switches.
Yeah, if he needs to. I mean, he may not need to.
Who knows? But I said it, I think the other day, Elon is an American patriot.
Yes.
He absolutely is an American patriot. He does not need to be doing this. He does not need this headache or heartache. He should be spending more time with his 13 children. And finding out if his newest child is his child. I mean, that would be great.
That's a whole
other podcast. But the point being, he's got other things. We want to go to Mars.
Yeah.
He needs to get us to Mars. He can't be worrying about you know, the broken Social Security Administration or Medicare or Medicaid.
Yeah.
Find out as much waste, fraud, and abuse in those areas as you can, and set us on a path of prosperity.
I mean, because the things that you think about him getting the astronauts back from the space station, you know, there was an interview with those two. They had nothing but good to say about Elon and Trump.
Well, because they were saved.
They got home. Yeah, as a result.
Can you imagine you're up there? It's July.
They're supposed to be there for a week, right, or 10 days?
Yeah, July, and you're told by the previous administration that no, we're gonna have to leave you up there because the one person that could get you down is for the other team.
Yeah,
and it's just too risky for us to bring you down. I mean, it's unbelievable. It really kind of shows how politics has poisoned everything.
Yeah,
because in the past that would not be. I'm using a lot of alliteration today, but in the past it just wouldn't be an issue. It's just let's get the guy. Let's get him home. Get him home.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter who gets the credit.
Right.
You know, it doesn't matter who gets the credit. Let's just get the job done. And we've lost that.
Job done.
That was a Reagan, axiom.
Yeah. So coming up, I think I've got to do some reading.
You got to do some reading.
There are a couple books. Well, there's one book that's out. Amy Parnes and I can't remember the other guy's name. Two reporters. Amy Parnes was one of the authors of Glass Ceiling, the one that about the Hillary Clinton campaign in 2016, which is a great read because it was written. You can tell it was written with the expectation of this is how the first woman became president. And then it didn't. So they've got a book out called Fight, and there's a bit of a deep dive into the Biden campaign and what's happening with, or what happened with his demise.
Yes, and certain excerpts have highlighted former Chief of Staff Ron Klain and his debate prep with the former president.
Well, actually, those excerpts I think come out of the book that's coming out next.
Okay, am I getting the books mixed
two
up?
books.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm getting the books
one
mixed
that's
up.
already out and one that's coming soon. So,
Isn't Fight for about the inside part about the presidency, the fight for the presidency?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'm getting mixed up. But anyway, there has been quite a bit shared about Mr. Klain and his failed coaching efforts of our fair former president while he was sitting by the pool.
Fell asleep by the pool.
Napping.
Yeah.
And it just brings back into the reality that our former president was not the president.
No.
He was a puppet of the people behind him, and he was not in charge of anything. He did not know anything that was going on for at least the last 3 years of his presidency. Maybe the first year you could probably give him a pass.
Do you think it was that long?
But everything that seems to be coming out, including the book that you mentioned, is pointing in that direction.
All right. Well, so we need to read those so we can so our audience doesn't have to waste their time or their money. We'll do that for you.
Yeah.
And because that's a service we provide. That's why we're here.
And we like the juicy stuff.
Yeah.
About that. And the fact that it's coming out now, and there's more to come, is going to be, I think, shocking and interesting. And I think it paints another picture of, despite whatever disagreements we will and do have with the current administration and the current president, tariffs being probably one of them. Gosh, it's actually nice to have somebody sit in the Rose Garden and extemporaneously just talk.
Yeah.
And point to charts and seemingly know what he's talking about, but he may or may not have. But
the fact that but have
he's engaged,
the conversation,
and he's talking to the press every day. He's engaged, and he actually knows what's happening.
Yeah.
The former president could not spend 25 minutes in debate prep earlier in June of this year without going and taking a nap.
June of last year. Yeah.
June of last year without going and taking a nap.
Yeah.
By the pool.
I mean, in the comments about how
too much for him.
His aides were wondering, does he think he's the president of NATO?
Oh yeah, there was a time during that prep where Ron
fixated.
said he had to remind him he was president of the United States and not president of NATO. And he was very, very proud of everything he was doing overseas with foreign policy.
Right.
But he couldn't grasp the domestic issues.
Right.
Clearly.
Because he was saying, these world leaders love me, so I must be doing a good job.
Yeah. What's also come out in one of the books that you're referencing is the role of Kamala in forcing Joe Biden to endorse her on the same day that he removed himself out of the race. She put a full court press. He wanted to endorse her a couple days later. Now it's being reported because he just felt it needed some time. And that was the plan of Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama, because they wanted to have a protract, kind of a mini primary.
Yeah.
And it was Barack Obama who wanted to put the governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, in the queue, along with the governor of Maryland. It's now being reported.
Really?
Yes. And so they're
wow. It gets
and I think
curiouser and curiouser.
Oh yeah. So I think Vice President Harris, pushed, made the case that you've set me up as your vice president. You can't just leave me out there to dry. And I'm going to announce, and you need to endorse me right away. And I think he decided to do that.
Did he decide to do that?
I don't know what he decided, but if he had a moment of clarity, it certainly must have been to spite Barack and Pelosi.
Yeah. You
blew
can
up their
push me out,
plans.
but you can't have all your
Because
all your-
if you recall, Obama did not endorse Harris until much like a week later.
yeah, it wasn't instant.
So it wasn't part of his plan.
Interesting.
So
Well-
a lot is going to be revealed
Yes, folks.
about that administration, and it's not going to be good.
No.
It is going to be a mess.
And you'll hear about it here because we will read this and we will pass it on, and you don't have to buy the book. You don't have to take the time. All you have to do is listen to us tell you about it.
Yeah, I think the next show we'll do a little download.
Yeah.
Let's do that. It's sad though. I don't even know why I feel sympathy for the former president, but you have to I'm sad for the country. We have four lost years, and I think you've made this point time and time again. The republic endures, regardless of what is happening. The republic endures.
Yeah.
That we have enough. The founders were so brilliant in how they thought about the country and how they put different checks and balances in place, that because people saw the president and his frailties, people rose up and made sure other things were in place.
Yeah.
Republicans took power again. And now we have a president, like him, hate him, whatever else, but he's there.
Well,
And he has his faculties.
And if you are a big Trump fan, then you can't help but think it was probably better for him to
Yes.
lose 2020, because a second Trump term from 2020 to 2024 would not look anything like what we're seeing now.
No. Well, and then you have a lot of the truths that are coming out about COVID now.
Yeah.
A lot is being written, and a lot more it will be written about the policies that were put in place to placate. There we go. Alliteration
There you
again. Like the P. But to placate the populace.
Yep.
There you go.
There you go.
And never again.
That's for sure.
Never again. I mean, talk about socialism, communism rising up, cultural Marxism rising up during a time when we were at our most vulnerable. And that is why Trump has won.
Yeah, that was huge issue for sure. Well, let's watch how these tariffs go.
I can keep pontificating if you like me to.
Let's watch how these tariffs go over the next few days. We'll see what happens
We'll
with
see
the
who
market.
caves.
Yeah.
I don't think Madagascar will be caving,
No.
or Vietnam, or like Sri Lanka. Like
I don't know how they can.
they don't have any money.
There's nothing they can really do, right?
A 10% tariff on them is like that's everything.
Yeah.
So I think there will be some adjustments going forward.
Well, one thing for sure, folks, that you're going to start to see the label on things that you buy. You're going to see less of Madagascar, less of Sri Lanka, less of Thailand, less of Korea, less of Vietnam, less of China, and more of USA.
Hopefully.
Now, will it be more expensive? Yeah, probably.
Hopefully. But we need sound and proactive tax
Yeah,
and
the tax
regulatory
policy, the tax
now.
policy and regulatory policy has to follow this tariff policy so that we maximize the economic impact in a positive way.
We need to invigorate economic growth within the consumer base.
Exactly.
And that's what those Trump tax cuts did. And that's what they will
why we
continue
need
to
to do
do if our fair members of Congress get their head out of their butts and get to work,
Take care.
rather than worrying about,
Whatever
proxy
else they're
voting.
doing. Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
good Lord. Come on,
Exactly.
guys.
All right.
Maybe you need a refresher course.
Yeah. Well, on that note,
Just really quick, because
Yeah.
I have a feeling you need to go, but I just want to say R.I.P. to Val Kilmer.
oh my gosh, we forgot to talk about that. Yep.
So the first Val Kilmer movie I ever saw was his second movie, which was Real Genius,
Real genius.
which I really loved
Yeah.
growing up. And of course, saw Top Gun,
Yeah.
but love Tombstone. And I posted about it yesterday. I'm like, I love Tombstone. I especially love when he meets Johnny Ringo in the in the little wash there, and says, "Why, Johnny Ringo, you look like someone just walked all over your grave." It's just every line in that movie that he delivers is brilliant. And there's so many other movies that he was so brilliant in.
He was great, and R.I.P. for sure. That I was shocked when he showed up in Maverick.
Oh, so good.
It was great to see that.
Tom Cruise said that he cried like afterwards.
Yeah, I'm
like,
sure.
It's just it was so great.
Yeah.
And his voice was recreated with AI, which you could have never.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it was.
I didn't know that.
And if you want to watch something that's really moving, watch the documentary that was on Amazon. I think it was called Val, and it was narrated by his son in his own voice. And it's really, really good. Really good. Just about his career and his ups and his downs, and how he confronted this throat cancer.
Yeah.
And was cancer free, and he was cancer free as of a couple of days ago, but he got pneumonia.
Yeah.
His body, they did report that his body was just really ravaged and really worn down.
Can't imagine.
Well, I guess a really sweet, nice guy too.
Yeah.
In a community that's not known for those people.
Right. No, he was as much of a douchebag as he was as characters in some of the.
Oh, he played great ones.
He
Just
was
obnoxious.
actually a really nice guy.
I mean, for real genius. I still use with my kids. I'll say, "Well, let's take a step forward. Let's take a step back. Let's take a step forward. Let's take a step back. Now we're cha-ching." And that's right out of the movie.
Yeah.
And it drives my wife nuts because I quote him. I mean, multiple movies.
The teeth snap in Top Gun.
Yes. And every line in Tombstone. Oh, it's the best.
Yeah. Well, rest in peace, Val Kilmer.
Yes.
And on that note.
And I liked him in Batman.
Oh, yeah.
I thought he was a great Batman.
He was a great Batman. He was good in everything.
Looked great in the suit.
Yep. All right.
With that note, we need more Val Kilmers in this world.
That's right. Yes, we do.
More Iceman.
Right. All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right. God bless.
Take care.